Hi, we are Pinhot Press, a small risograph print shop in Oakville, Ontario near Toronto, Canada. In this tutorial, we will learn how to convert a photo into riso printable grayscale image layers. I'm pretty sure this isn't the only way to do it, so if you have any other tips and tricks, please feel free to reach out to pin.press@gmail.com. I do have another tutorial for creating art in Photoshop for riso, which I will link below. You can also find it on our website under Resources, Tutorials, and there it is. Set up your artwork for riso in Photoshop. So this Photoshop tutorial is more for if you're planning to prepare illustrations from scratch. The current tutorial is for if you have a photo or another finished piece of art that you'd like to separate into riso layers. So it's kind of like working backwards. At the end of the tutorial, I'll actually show you an example of an image printed with a traditional laser printer such as you would find in Staples or other copy stores. And I'll also show you the result from our riso photo tutorial example. So I'll actually print it and show you the pictures and compare them with an actual laser printed photo image so that you can compare how they might differ. So this is a photo of a peony that I took. Right now it's in RGB, as you can see. We'd like for it to be in CMYK eventually. We're actually going to be working with the channel layers right here. As you can see, we can turn the channels on and off to show different grayscale intensities of each of the colors. The reason why we eventually have to convert it to CMYK and not use RGB channels is because the way the channels are separated in RGB are based on screen information and not ink information. For example, we'd expect this peony to have a lot of red on it on account of the peony being so pink. But as you can see, the red channel barely has any red on it. Rather, it has a lot of green, and it also has a lot of blue. That's just the nature of how the monitor emits colors so that our eyes pick up this pink. Converting to CMYK forces the color layers to be interpreted in terms of mixing colors of ink using traditional CMYK inkjet or laser print settings. So if we go to Image, Mode, CMYK Color, and hit OK, as you can see, there is a lot of magenta. There is also a lot of cyan and a lot of yellow to make that vibrant warm green. And so we can actually send this magenta to the riso and say, hey, print this magenta in pink. We can tell the riso to print this cyan layer in turquoise or teal, and we can tell the riso printer to print this yellow layer as yellow, and all the soy ink colors will mix to form its own composite color version of this CMYK photo. We will now bring these grayscale channels as layers in this tab that you can modify and edit. But first, you want to make sure that this is the final version of your photo. So make sure you've done all your edits to your levels, brightness and contrast, hue and saturation, etc. I'm just going to use the original image as is. So I'm just going to get rid of all these adjustment layers. And we're going to change this locked background layer into a regular layer by double clicking it and hitting OK. While in the channel layer, pick a color, hit select all, then edit copy merged, then go to your layers panel, create a new layer make sure the new layer is selected, not the original background layer, but the new layer, and just click Edit, Paste. So now you've pasted the magenta layer. I'm actually going to print this in pink Riso ink, so I'm just going to label it as pink. This is good practice for sending to your printers so that they won't have to guess what color ink you want this grayscale layer to be printed in. So I'm just going to do it for... Oh, also one more thing to note. You want to only view the original color image before going back to your channels layer so that your channels layer is reflecting the most accurate image. Otherwise, it's just gonna show everything as this black and white pink layer. So just make sure that the channels is only reflecting the original colored image. I'm gonna bring in cyan. Select all, edit, copy, merged, going to layers, create a new empty layer, edit, paste, and I'm gonna print this in teal because it's a darker blue green and I feel like it'll give me a bit of contrast. Then I'm going to hide that, go back to the original colored layer. I'm going to go to channels. I'm going to bring in yellow. Select all, edit, copy, merged, layers, new layer, edit, paste, and label this as yellow. I'm gonna print this as a 3-color print. I'm just going to ignore, hide that and only show the original colored layer. As I was saying, I'm just going to ignore this black layer. You can ask your printer actually to print this layer. If you bring it into this and export this for them, they'll print whatever you ask them to print. So let's just say, okay, I'm just gonna do pink, teal, and yellow. So actually, if you want, you can just give this to your printer and just be like, hey, print this and call it a day. But what if you'd like to see how these 3 layers are gonna look with the swank? Like, what if you'd like to preview them, right? So I'm gonna go through some ways that you can do that. But actually, before that, I just wanted to show you something fun that you can do with this. So we're gonna bitmap this. So let's duplicate the pink layer. So select the pink layer, go to layer, duplicate layer, into a new file. Let's call that file pink. Then we'll convert it to grayscale. Okay. Then we'll convert it into a bitmap. And you can specify different kinds of settings for the bitmap, but we're just going to go with halftone screen, and we're going to do a very low resolution 180 pixels per inch. And we'll do 25 lines per inch and a round shape. You can actually play around with different settings here, but we're just going to go with what I have on the screen. And as you can see, it's converted this image into halftones. Then I'm just gonna do the same with my other layers. Layer, duplicate layer. I'm gonna make teal. This one, grayscale. Image, mode, bitmap. I'll do halftone, and maybe I'll do like different angle. Let's say like 60, and maybe I just want squares. So that's pretty cool. And then let's do the yellow layer. So duplicate this yellow layer. Image mode, grayscale, okay. Image mode, bitmap, okay. Let's do halftone again just to keep it consistent. Maybe I want like 75 degrees, 20 lines per inch. I'll do diamond and hit OK. So now we have diamond shaped bitmaps. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this into grayscale again, size ratio 1:1, and I'm gonna turn it into RGB or CMYK. It doesn't matter. We just want to see what it looks like, I guess, in color. So I'm gonna right click. So now that it's in RGB, as you can see, this one is in RGB. The other two are still in bitmap. I'm going to make this into a regular layer and do blending options. And if you go to color overlay, you can overlay like a yellow. You can actually get the if you want to be super accurate, you can actually get the hex. Oh my gosh. You can actually get the hex coding right there. Oh my gosh. FFE 800. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, FFE 800. So that's the yellow. Hit OK and then go to screen. I think screen is, yep, just do screen and hit OK. And then this is teal. I'll do the same thing. Oh yeah, sorry. Make sure this is changed to grayscale and then RGB. Double click to make it into a regular layer so that you can do blending options on it. Do color overlay. Let's go back to here and get 00838A. 00838A and do screen. And then double click mode grayscale, mode RGB. Okay, layer from background or just double click, blending options, color overlay, FF48B0. FF48B0. Okay, and then hit screen and hit OK. Then I'm going to bring this layer into this image and also this layer into this image. So go to layer, duplicate layer, duplicate this teal layer into the pink layer and call it teal. Hit OK. Go to yellow, the yellow file, go to layer, click the layer first, duplicate this layer into the pink and call it yellow. So now that we have all the different color layers in this one document, we're going to have to rasterize the layer style because otherwise it won't let us multiply the layers to see what all the layers will look like with the colors combined. So just go to the menu for layer, make sure you select a layer and then just hit rasterize layer style to make this yellow. We'll do the same for this teal. So select the teal layer, go to layer, rasterize layer style, and we'll go to pink, go layer, rasterize layer style. So it's kept that really cute kind of newspaper, newsprint type effect for all of them, and we've put different settings for how they're half toned. So this should make for a bit of an interesting print. And we're going to select all. As you can see, this is the original file. That's why it's not labeled, but we want to label that for the printer. We'll select all and we'll hit multiply, which will give us some sort of kind of preview of what this would look like. As you can see, all the bitmaps are blending with each other. They're really just dots of ink, right? That's what DPI is. So that's one way of kind of like making this cute halftone effect, and then coloring the halftones and combining them to give you a preview of what the image would look like. So you can export this as an image and just give the printer your the grayscale and tell them, okay, print this in teal. Let's figure out how to put a color overlay on this layer and the other layers as well to give us a preview of what the printed image will look like. So one way to do that is to hit the hue saturation adjustment layer. This button right here will apply this adjustment to the one layer directly underneath it. So it'll isolate the effect of this adjustment layer. So that's what we want. As you can see, pink has been underlined once I pressed this button. And I'm going to hit colorize and bump up the saturation and bump up the hue to something that's close to this fluorescent pink color, and bump up the lightness, because pink, actually the pink ink, it doesn't have black, so you just want to make it into something that doesn't have any black on it. So something kind of like that, and it'll take a little bit of experience to figure out that this might be how it's gonna look. So there's a bit of judgment call in this method. I'm gonna do the same for yellow. So I'm gonna hit hue and saturation, colorize, bump up the saturation, change this hue right here into yellow. Something like that. And I'm gonna get rid of this black color. Something like this, I think might be okay. Although the yellow, it's gonna look like this at its darkest, so I might even just kind of make it like that. And oh yeah, isolate that adjustment to just this yellow layer. For teal, I'm gonna do something a little different. For teal, I'm actually gonna right click, go to blending options, and go to color overlay. And the reason for that is because when I go to hue saturation and I hit colorize, there isn't really a hue here. The hue bar here, there's not really a dark it's all like, it just looks like it's all just pure color. Even when I hit saturate, there's not really that dark green teal that I can find, so I can't use it. So that's why I have to go through the blending options and go to color overlay and go into here, because in the color overlay section I can find a more accurate color. Actually, you can even just it's gonna do it again. 00838A. 00838A. So you can get this actual shade, and I think color, yeah. So something like this is okay, is good. So we'll just use that. And can you do the same? Can you color overlay? Can you right click blending options and color overlay this with yellow? Unfortunately for yellow, FF800, so unfortunately for yellow, when you hit color, you'll see that it'll keep the black parts. If you hit screen, it'll make it super light. There isn't really a setting that I found that works well for color if you just want the yellow without the black. And the reason why you don't want the black is because when you print with yellow ink, it'll just be yellow. There won't be black ink. This will just tell the ink to print a more concentrated yellow on this area versus the grayscale area. So that's why it's really either or method. Either you want to use the hue saturation adjustment method or the color overlay method. You just have to figure out what's going to be the most accurate. So at this point, you're going to want to save this file because we're going to collapse all the layers to keep the colors with the layers, and so that the multiply blending options up here in the layer panel will work. So let's just do that. Layer, merge down. So now that's pink. For this teal, because we applied a color overlay to it, we will have to do layer, rasterize, layer style. So now that's in teal. And we'll have to collapse this hue saturation adjustment layer with the grayscale yellow layer underneath that. So just hit layer, merge down. So now we have the yellow layer, the teal layer, and the pink layer. And now you're just going to select all three and go to blending mode. Instead of normal, hit multiply. There you are. Sorry, I hadn't made the other layers visible, but now that they're visible, you can see that this is what it should look like. I'm going to put this in a group, and as you can see, this is the actually, let me just do normal. This is the original image, and this is what it's going to look like when it's printed with the riso. So original image printed with the riso. In order for you to get more of this contrast, maybe you do actually want to print out the fourth black layer, and that might help. We can tell by just creating another layer, edit, copy merged, and selecting that new layer, edit, paste. And because this is already in black and white, there's nothing to be done. As opposed to these, you have to actually convert them to their actual colors in order to preview them. So I'm gonna do multiply. Just move that up there. So this is what the colors will look like when printed in riso. And this is what it's gonna look like. This is what it looks like originally. So riso, original, riso, original. And at this point, you can still modify your riso layers so that it will be closer to the photo, or you might decide that you actually like this. For me, maybe I would just lighten the teal layer a little bit to not make it as blue. Yeah, so something like that. But just remember that you should modify the grayscale layer before giving it to your printer. This is just for preview purposes. Alright, so let's take a look at some examples. So this was printed with a laser printer, which you can do it at your local copy shop such as Staples. It's done on coated paper, so it's got that shiny, smooth look to it. This is done with the riso on uncoated white paper, so it's got that fluorescent pink, teal, and yellow. And I did this on the original grayscale version, not the bitmap version. This is actually on off-white paper, as you can see, so it gives it a little bit of warmer tone to everything. And lastly, for fun, this is on yellow paper that I had kind of lying around. So they're all different shades of paper, and they all lend their own effects to the riso ink. So here they all are again for comparison purposes. If you actually email us at pin.press@gmail.com, we'll be happy to send you a free copy of the Peony print and also a color chart. We will also be uploading this tutorial in the resources tutorial section soon. Thanks so much for attending, and we hope that this is helpful. Till next time.